Greetings, chess friends. About to look at round number 4 of the Southwest class tournament that just occurred. And my opponent was a pretty strong young man, I believe 9 years old, one of the top American talents. The rating you see there, 1885 roughly, I believe is his FIDE rating, but over 2100 US chess. So a strong and really improving young man. Spoke with him after the game. Really was rattling off variations without a board, and really should have had me in this one. So watch out for this young man. Let's take a look. This was a very exciting game to play, also coupled with the time pressure that I was in. Time control in this tournament is 80 minutes, which sounds like a lot, but it goes fast. 80 minutes to make 40 moves. And there's a 30-second delay the entire game. Delay, not increment. And then after you make 40 moves, you get 30 extra minutes. So 40 moves you have to make in 80 minutes, and you get an extra 30 minutes if you make your 40th move. So here we go. I am playing with the white pieces against this talented young man, just blitzing out these moves. I do quite like this F3 line. You can find plenty of games with me playing that one, so maybe I'll have to mix it up from now on. But this one, Castle, is this so-called same-ish variation. Very sturdy and solid. A secret I've noticed playing this over the years, it's very difficult for young kids to feel the cramped positions that Black has to deal with. Of course, they do open up at some point, but usually this is a very closed type of game. So Black can also capture here. I'm sure it's normal to see these type of Sicilian positions, essentially. But then when I play d5, it kind of remains this same-ish. Here's the first moment the game really changes, at least in my preparation and my understanding. I was expecting a nearly automatic move, knight e5, which is central, defended, and attacks the pawn. Very natural and obvious move. And usually the knight moves to g3, which guards the pawn with the bishop. So that's what I was expecting, and he just thought for a few minutes and played knight a5. I'll talk about the time as it really played a factor in this game. Like I said, I had literally 1 minute to play about 20 moves in a tense position, and he had about 10, which is no picnic either. So, but here we go. Knight a5, still threatening the pawn, and I reacted to this very poorly after a few moves. So knight g3, same move I was expecting. I kind of thought to myself, this knight is stranded and it doesn't move for a long time. We all know the expression knight on the rim is dim or grim. Definitely true and holds true here. h5, normal in this line to sort of bother this knight. Of course, the knights on g3 or b3, b6, g6 are kind of precarious. So bothering it with the h-pawn is very useful. h3 can follow, of course, yada, yada, yada. So bishop d3, and here's really where I start to slip. He thought for quite a while, again, this was one of those games where you get low on time early in the game. We were both unfamiliar territory already. And I really fumbled this one because I should play here and giving knight ge2 to protect the knight. Then you can play b3. Very logical, but I didn't think of it at all. I should have just castled, would be the human move here. But that is no picnic either, probably knight e3. But I played f4. And my calculation was very lazy. I thought, okay, knight b6 has got to be what he's aiming for. This pawn is under attack, and I'll just play queen e2. Kind of just quickly playing it. But when I'm looking at the board, this bishop is blocked. It's blocked. It's blocked. And I just really, just a mistake in my mind's vision, so to speak. Because here he just has bishop g4. That bishop, remember, was blocked at the position when I'm calculating. But now this queen cannot stay guarding the pawn because queen f1 runs into h4. Very thematic, easy move he would find in a split second. So now if the knight has to go to e2, this pawn is hanging for free. So really nice coordinated attack on the queen side with the knights and this. You know, like I said, very sharp young man. And here I realized, and actually I want to say this is kind of a bit of chess experience or wisdom to impart, that I realized right here, it's move 11. After I played f4, bad move, and he played knight b6, move 11, I'm in trouble. And you have to be honest, basically. If you just kind of castle and lose the pawn or don't play something really active here, you're going to be in big trouble. And I reacted maybe a little too abruptly, but I think a good practical decision. Just want to also point out b3 cannot be played, of course, tonight is hanging. But here, again, I thought for quite a while, probably 20-ish minutes out of the 80 were given. So really getting low on time right from this moment. Knight takes h5. Deserving of the kind of dubious character there. But this move is very scary when you're black, because here, obviously, he does take, but he thought for a long, long time as well. Now the move threatened, the key idea is pushing the e-pawn and uncovering the checkmate. So not feeling comfortable when this queen is bearing down. This is the position that really happens in the game. But I, of course, was calculating a ton of things here. Just want to point out that queen e2, we already saw this, goes really passive, right? H4, and we're just losing the pawn in passive position, kind of on the defensive, so to speak. You could also play a move like bishop c1 and just get out of the way, and then maybe play an active move after they take. Again, kind of on the defensive. But knight h5, we're going down swinging. And that's important psychology in chess. Of course, I took a lot of time, so it was kind of obvious maybe I was a little bit off, out of sorts, but, it's also a sacrifice. So when he sees it, he says, oh, he thought for a long time here, and now all of a sudden my king is in danger. Very scary. I was calculating f5 a lot. Actually turns out to be the best move and right idea. And I was planning here to play g4. When I sacrificed that knight, I was planning this position. For sure, was calculating actually here queen e8 and capturing and taking with the e-pawn. This is really what I was looking at. When I see it now, and I'm obviously seeing the engine about minus 1.1 or so, black is just better. But I actually thought there was a real practical chance here because these pawns are strong and I have an easy plan. Easy plans in chess are very valuable asset. If it's just the easy way to play, push, 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 anyone can do that. You don't have to walk a tightrope necessarily. Also, his knight being very out of the game plays into this. Obviously, this pawn is hanging right now, but that plays into this, right, that his knight will be a little uncoordinated, let's say. That being said, black is clearly better there. So he didn't play f5. And this, I think, is the best move for the next move or two. So he played knight takes pawn, bishop c1, and again f5, very similar lines. e6, castles, okay. What's the body count here? Black is actually up a piece for just one pawn. We sacked the 2 pawns for the knight, but then he took another one. So not 2 pawns down to 1. Queen f6, but would you be comfortable? We're on move 15 here, folks, and really both players getting into what will become real-time pressure. Very complicated position, nearly all the pieces still alive. Queen f6 just walks straight into this move, e5, obvious move. I think he was really banking on queen h6, kind of the only move. It is the only move. And he maybe just didn't see the next move coming, queen e2. It's a retreat, but of course white doesn't want to trade. You need to keep the queen alive as an attacker. And queen e2, again, accentuates these knights being very clumsy. This knight is b6, especially out of the game, and the only safe square would be back to a5. Just terrible, terrible placement. So actually, I think this surprised him. Engine giving equal-ish, better if white. If anyone is better white. Pawn takes d5, which does open a new defender out, the bishop. But engine giving knight takes and then takes. Definitely saw this, but I couldn't resist the next move, f5. Uncovering the bishop. And again, we are down to real-time pressure here, folks. I wrote this on the notation in just maybe one more move. I had 1 minute to make 20 moves in this wild position, down a piece, attacking. So you have 30 seconds before my 1 minute starts ticking down. And he had about 10 or 11 minutes. Let's call it 11 minutes he had. Really, both of us, especially me, walking a tightrope, my time management was very poor this tournament. Something to work on. That's a quick way to spoil a good position. Here, again, I was really just racing to calculate. I did see this idea, but I thought I don't want to trade. This knight is so bad. f6 is just irresistible. And engine gives it a question mark. Who can blame a person for playing f6 here? And he just plays knight takes e5 quickly. He just banged this one down like he was expecting it. And really, a good lesson here. This is a great move. under tense conditions. He played the best move, and it's giving back material. I took the bishop. What else are you going to do? And then he gave back the piece. Notice bishop, bishop, knight versus knight, knight, bishop. So he gave it back, but he has now 2 pawns advantage. 2 pawns extra, which is a ton. What can white do? It's not time for positional chess, only attack. White has to attack. So bishop f5, if we're going to trade, I was really thinking we can open up the rook as a real attacking piece. You can see ideas like bishop guarding this, rook g5 could be scary. Keep that in mind. Rook a e8, still black is better. Bishop g5, again, engine gives not the best move, but again, what are we going to do? I mean, this is basically just playing a blitz game, essentially. So rook e6, again, a question mark. And from this move, in the next 2 moves, black makes question marks on 3 consecutive moves. So this one, rook e6 mistake, just quickly played rook a to f1. Good lesson for improving chess players. Use more pieces. The more pieces you add to the attack, the more you're going to have combinations of things. So you add one and it interacts with all the others. So it's more than the sum of the parts when you add attackers. So now we have not really this knight, although you can imagine one day it getting into the game. One move, it could. For example, d4, it could. All right, but we have the queen, rook, bishop, rook. This is a serious attack. Moves like bishop to f6 are happening right away, and it gets scary. He plays his second mistake, knight g6. Quickly play queen h5. We're threatening bishop h6. You definitely want to be the attacking player when you're in a time scramble situation. It's so hard to defend. Knight back to e5, and actually this is a fatal move. White is now clearly better. Bishop f6. Fortunately for me, these are not difficult moves to find. I mean, I didn't, of course, play the best move every time, but bishop f6 is very natural. So although I was in time pressure, these are moves that are very logical. Also rook f1, capture, capture. So the last few moves have been pretty natural, which made my life a little easier. Rook g5, again, very natural move. So I wasn't really close to flagging, although the pressure was definitely cooking. So knight g6, and just in general, you don't want to trade queens. You might see some ghosts that takes, rook h5 is checkmating them, but notice h8 is guarded by the knight. No checkmate yet. Queen g4, again, don't want to trade, and this starts to really introduce some ideas of maybe taking the knight. Notice the queen is pointing at the rook as well, especially this one, rook h5, very scary move, which does occur right now. Natural move he played as well, and rook h5. Great move, it says, but come on, it's just the most natural move. His queen is trapped. The black queen is trapped here. Now we just have to have a real count of all the material. He plays rook takes bishop. Good move. And I really want to mention here this funny moment. Rook takes queen. There's a lot of beautiful variations in this game we're going to get into. Rook takes queen is not the best move. Who wouldn't play rook takes queen here? White is still better. But the best move is actually just taking back. Unbelievable. I'm sure this would be just insane for a person to find this. Maybe in a classical game. But queen g7, a nice line to show, though. And actually, in a classical game, a strong player would find this, I think. Guarding. And then, for example, d5, the idea of rook g5. And you're just by force sacrificing here. For example, taking the knight, either rook takes, and white is winning even more so than the other line. So, but okay, give me a break. In a time scramble, rook takes queen is where we left off. Rook takes rook in between move, and it really isn't enough material, but you can imagine some sturdy defense here. So black has a rook and a knight and 2 extra pawns. Rook, knight, and 2 pawns actually is up in material, but I felt very confident that I had weathered the storm and was just winning because the black king is so exposed. And another good lesson here to point out that the queen and knight, really important here, if you haven't heard this, the queen and knight are the best attacking team in chess. So if you had to team up any pieces, Fortunately for us all, the pieces work pretty well together, but especially queen and knight, because you have the powers of all the pieces in chess. When you have a queen and a knight, you have all the powers of all pieces in chess. So it's really an advantage. Okay, watch out. This knight wakes up after a long hibernation, coming right for knight e3. But here, knight check and queen g5. I played this move pretty quickly and naturally. Still, we're only on move 36. Had well under a minute here, but actually it gives an exclamation point. I was kind of strangely happy with myself with this move. I didn't know it was a great move. It just got out of the way of this and kind of the ideas with knight h5 or h4, but I guess that was an important detail. And here, king g1, I would say the most human natural move in a tough situation, still move 35 here. Okay, b5. This move actually seems to throw the game away when there was still hope. And there was a really fun line that the computer found to be a good defense. Rook h8, knight h5, rook takes. This, although I would be on move, let's see here, b6, 38, I would not want to play in a time scramble with the white queen, because here the material is a funny imbalance. Two knights and two very important pawns. Two pawns, two knights, that's 8 points in the traditional scoring versus a queen. 9. 8 versus 9. So that wouldn't be too fun, and you could easily see a white messing this one up with this passed d pawn being kind of the key detail that's really threatening. Not like we're just going to hang our queen, although you're tiptoeing through a minefield here, but the pawn is actually a threat to queen. So really cool stuff. That would have been tough, although I think we would have hit move 40 and actually had some time to think about it. Here's the real game. Went b5. Again, rook h8 would have been better defense. h4. And I knew this one was pretty much in the bag. So h4, and we just take the free knight. So still a little work to do here. Knight e4, but the pawns are just too unstable. The king really is the key. There's a lot of these scary moves. Check, knight takes pawn. And this pawn is not scary enough, and our king is safe on g1. So d3, queen e7, rook f7, and queen takes pawn. By the way, queen e7 is the 40th move. The notorious 40th, 39, 40, 41. These are the kind of dangerous moves when you're hitting the time control, usually in a lot of tournaments. So move 40. And even though here queen takes d6 was pretty obviously the best move, it's just free, and the knight hanging, and the pawn, and everything, I stopped. I have 30 minutes now. After having 1 minute for the last 20 moves, I stopped, took a moment to kind of collect my thoughts here, and I thought it was a very good moment to do that, because after your kind of heart is racing for the last 30 minutes with 1 minute left, just playing on the delay essentially, then it's just good to pause, collect yourself, realize you have this game won, and not kind of slip on the banana peel. So queen takes d6 obviously was the best move. Knight c4, and again, I was kind of careful and slow here to think, but queen takes, there's no tricks, no rook f1, nothing happening like this. Knight takes the pawn, and of course now all the pawns are getting cleaned up. Nothing here we can play check or even some better move. He plays 95, and I didn't mean to be especially fancy, but I thought it was a very human touch just to play knight e6. So you can move your queen to any square safe, but knight e6 is check. We take the rook for free. They take our queen. We take the knight, and that's an easy calculation, and this one's over. Just want to make one note about here. I thought, okay, and he's just going to make me play it out, which he did. I know young players are kind of told this. Curious your thoughts if you're watching the video. Should people play this all the way out? Kids? If an adult did it, I feel like it would be quite impolite, let's say. But of course, he was a very friendly young man. But just a question, what do you guys think? Should little kids play this out just in case? Stay tuned to the next game because something unbelievable happens next game. And here, quickly, how many moves to mate? How many moves to mate here? 5. The answer is 5. I didn't know that. I just kind of played a human safe way, but just fun activity there. I did 1, let's see, 2, 3, I did 5 actually. Okay, well, it's pretty easy, I guess, when you're at the board, but I really wasn't counting, just being careful not to do anything silly. So, really interesting game, a lot of fun variations. This is move 59, And remember, this game just exploded on move 12. Remember, knight takes h5, move 12. So this game was just a complete bonfire of a game with the time pressure in this. So a fun game, definitely stressful, but was happy to get my first win in the tournament. So again, took some buys in the tournament, but I essentially had 1 out of 2. In the real tournament, I had 2 out of 4.